So what I'm going to talk about tonight is the wet plate collodion process, which is, if you look at the exhibit, you'll see that a lot of the photographs are made from wet plate collodion negatives. So we're going to pour a collodion plate, and the first thing we're going to do is make sure there's no dust on the plate. So this plate has been really well cleaned. And that's important, otherwise the collodion will peel off later. And so this is sort of like, you know, that marble game where you have to balance the marble. So we want to really just kind of take our time, and we're going to go around the plate clockwise. And then we'll pour off the excess. And then we rock the plate back and forth so that you don't see any of those vertical lines that might show up otherwise. And you should be able to smell the ether by now. Now we're just going to look at this little corner here. We're going to just, when it stops dripping and it starts to set up, then we know it's time to put it into the silver nitrate bath. And that just takes a few minutes. It really depends on how humid it is, what the temperature is, ambient temperature. That's it. And now it's ready to put into the bath. So now we're going to put the coated plate on the dipper. And what you see, the box there, you see it contains a silver nitrate solution. So when I put the plate in and pull it out, after I wait a minute or so before I pull it out, you'll see we're making film. And that's what film looks like. You know, silver gelatin looks like that too, actually. So this is in the darkroom now. And we're going to bring the plate holder out to where our subject is sitting, and we've already focused on our subject. So now the plate coming out of the camera, it looks like this. You don't really see the image yet, right? So we're going to develop it. And what's so cool about this as an artist is that every part of this process is visual. I mean, you see everything happening. So I'm going to pour developer on the plate, and the developer that we use for this process is iron, basically. And I'm watching it develop, and this is what it looks like when it's finished developing. And for a negative, it might take about a minute or maybe longer for it to develop. So to stop the development, once it gets to where I want it to be, I just wash off the developer with water. This is a physical development, not a chemical one, which is what we're used to with silver gelatin. Once the plate is completely washed with water, we can actually take it out into the light and do the fixing in the light. So our fixing is going to be, we can either use hypo, with sodium thiosulfate, or potassium cyanide, which is my preference. I think it works a little bit better. So now I pulled the plate out of the fixer, and you can see it looks like a dense positive, like an overblown positive. But this is a negative. A good negative makes a bad positive, and a good positive makes a bad negative. So now we're going to wash the plate, and now we're going to dry the plate over a flame. And if we were to just leave the plate on a rack to dry by itself, it's possible it could peel. So in order to prevent that from happening, we dry it over a flame, just like they did in the 19th century. And now we're going to varnish the plate. The varnish, just like everything else, we make from scratch. We take gum sandarac, which is gum from a tree. We dissolve it in alcohol. We add oil of lavender, and which makes it smell nice, and mix it together, and we filter it. So we heat the varnish, we heat the plate, and then we pour the varnish onto the plate, just like I did with the collodion. Then we're going to dry the plate over the flame again. We're going to dry the varnish, but you want to wait a little while before you go over the flame, because the varnish, remember, has alcohol in it. And so it's flammable. So here's the plate hardening on a rack. And if I were to make a negative and want to print from it, I would wait at least a few days for the varnish to really harden before I would put it in a printing frame and put paper next to it. Sometimes I'll wait a week just to make sure. I thought it was important to talk about the color sensitivity of this process. And it's one of the things I actually love about collodion is that it's insensitive actually to a lot of colors. It's what we call blue UV sensitive. So here is our color chart. We published this back in 1995 in Shutterbug. We did a comparison between Kodacolor 2, taken with a Leica, and collodion, taken with our 19th century camera. And so if you look at the fruit on the table, you'll see all the warm colors like the apple, the orange, the tomato, and the lemon. you'll see that really you don't get anything with that. It's completely insensitive, pretty much insensitive to those colors. So what you're only getting then is just the reflection off of it. See, the lemon looks like an avocado, right? If you look at the roses, I think that's very interesting because they sort of reverse in tonality. Watch the roses. Right? The ones in the front now are lighter than the ones in the back. And that's because the ones in the back have a lot of warm colors in them, and the ones in the front have a lot of blue. So blue goes lighter, warm colors go darker. And sometimes it surprises us what happens. But I think for the exhibit, it's important to notice the tablecloth, which is a blue and white tablecloth, and it turns completely white. And that's a great metaphor for skies.